business, or are you running a business? Valuation is the ultimate KPI.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Valuations Podcast, the premier transition management and business optimization platform for the wealth management and insurance industries. My name is Mike Langford, and I'm the host of the Valuations Podcast. And this week I have a special guest, Andy Ambrose, the co-founder of Liveoak Technologies, based right here in Austin, Texas. And Andy and I have a bit of a special relationship that goes way back. Okay, 4 or 5 years ago, but it feels way back because it's getting kind of weird how it feels like I don't remember a time when Andy and his co-founder Pete and Liveoak Technologies wasn't in my life and something that I and people who I fanboy over, right? That I really love these guys and love what they built. And let me describe what it is that they've built, and you'll see why I'm so excited about Liveoak Technologies and Andy and Pete and the team. So they've made it possible for you to have live video conferencing, live video chat with your clients, prospects, referral partners, and the wider ecosystem that touch your clients, and have that be not only compliant, right? So that compliance is going to give you the thumbs up, that your security team is going to give the thumbs up on the technology, but also I made it so you can conduct business via this video chat. So it's not just you FaceTiming your client going, hey, how are things today? Let's walk through your financial plan. No. Hey, prospect, we want to move your assets over. Let's get the signatures done right here while we're chatting with each other. Liveoak makes that happen. Why is that important? Well, it's important for a variety of reasons. Number one, it removes a ton of friction out of the process, right? You know as well as I do that you can meet a prospect. They can think you're awesome. You can think they're awesome. You want to do business together. And it still may be via the traditional process several months before all the assets have moved over from their existing plans or existing accounts into accounts that you manage. And that's the same on the insurance side. Things can take a long time if we're faxing stuff around, couriering or mailing papers around, or if you're swinging by their office or they're swinging by your office. The traditional mechanism of meeting with people, try to schedule that meeting, try to get in front of them, try to get the paperwork signed, just a total pain in the butt. And Liveoak has taken all the friction out of that and removed the need to be in the same room together, remove the need to try to coordinate several different calendars, the estate attorney and the two spouses and maybe their heirs, everybody be in the same room at the same time. They get everybody in with Liveoak can fire up video chat. We're all in the same room, wherever we are, whether they're at their home, they're in a hotel room somewhere, or their office, and you're in your office. Fantastic solution. Brilliant and really needed now and in the future, right? I do not see a scenario in which this is not just a kind of table stakes, like you need to have this type of technology in your business going forward. Because as we know, increasingly, clients want to interact with you digitally. But they do want a personal side. They don't want to just get a simple text message, right? They don't want to have to interact only via email or only via forums on your website. They still want the human element. They still need the human element. But technology can aid that and complement that and make it easier to get that human element in and interact with your client. And it can help you scale your business. So I'm super excited to have Andy on the team. One other little reason why I'm super excited about having Andy on the show, not on the team. I'd love to have Andy on my team, by the way. One other reason why I'm super excited to have Andy on the show is that Andy and I, it's one of those experiences, as Andy will say, where it feels like the universe put us together at the right time. And it, in some ways, helped Liveoak take off like a rocket ship at the right time. So Andy and I met a few years back, and you'll hear Andy tell the story at an event that I host here at South by Southwest every year. And he and his partner, Pete Rung, very early in the process for Liveoak, demoed at the event, and the right people were in the room, and things went really well. So to me, it's a great learning lesson. And it's part of the reason why we do this podcast for you, is that sometimes interacting with the right people or hearing the right message or getting the word out at the right time really can help. And it's fantastic the way the universe works that way. So be generous with your time, be generous with your reaching out to folks and trying to put the right people together. I encourage clients to do that all the time with their clients as well, their prospects and clients, right? Don't just have a transactional relationship. Look for opportunities to put your clients together, the people that you have in your network together, because they oftentimes will look fondly upon you and you be the recipient of business down the road or what have you. But you also have the internal reward of saying, hey, look, I'm just helping people around me. And Andy and the Liveoak team are just one of those really fantastic stories where I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity to be in the right place at the right time with those guys and just help a tiny bit. I take zero credit for their success, but it's just really wonderful to see that things have worked out tremendously for them. And now that benefit is extending to you and your peers, right? That they're bringing an amazing technology solution to the marketplace that is really making it easier for you to interact with your clients and prospects and referral partners and grow your business and retain your clients and help those clients have better and more fruitful financial lives, right? So that's what it's all about. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. Andy Ambrose, co-founder of Liveoak Technologies, starts now. So Andy, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's fantastic to have you. It's felt like forever we've been trying to make this happen, but Liveoak is growing fast, and the demands on your time are extreme. So I really do appreciate you carving out some of the time to spend with me today.
Absolutely, Mike. Super excited to join you on this podcast. Excited to hear you're doing this actually, and I'd be remiss to not mention when this all started. And I know we might get into that in a bit here. Your event, which you do at South by Southwest. I'm not sure. Have you been doing it 5 years?
Yeah, we just finished our fifth year. Yeah.
Yeah. So that event, SoFin, I always tell the stars and moons story where I got a hold of you very, very shortly before, I think maybe your second event. And asked if you had a demo slot, and you chuckled and said, dude, it's like 10 days until South by. Are you kidding? And I said, okay, now I get it. Dumb question, but can I at least come? And something happened where you called me back like a day later and said, it's your lucky day. Somebody just dropped out. So that stars and moons freak chance that we had this opportunity to demo our product when it really wasn't even, it was practically in between an MVP and on a napkin, resonated in the audience to someone at Barclays, who then in turn said, this is a problem we are absolutely solving, and we want you to solve it for us. And so I credit you for the foundation. There's that little spark that happened. So I just wanted to share, if anyone listening to this podcast hasn't come to South by Southwest, Mike does a really amazing event that becomes sort of this huge amount of energy of networking that happens during South by. And I appreciate it, man. I'm grateful for it.
Well, my pleasure. I've actually shared your story in a variety of different flavors over the years because it is so interesting. Like that's the impetus for that event, frankly, is just put the right people in the room, right? A whole bunch of relevant folks from the fintech and financial services industry, and kind of see what happens. And of course, shine a light on some really interesting startups. And Liveoak was certainly one of them at the time, and still is. And sometimes amazing things happen. That's great. So I'm so happy that it's worked out for you guys.
Yeah, indeed.
So that's kind of cool. You kind of kicked it off where I want to kick it off. You're talking about the origin story, but I'd like to go a little bit before the origin story for people, because I always look at our careers kind of like IMDb. If you're ever watching a movie or a TV show and you're like, hey, who's that actor? What has he been in? And you fire up IMDb on your iPhone and you're scanning through to see like what other stuff they've been in. And it's always kind of interesting to see the path that somebody has taken to where they are today, because I think it shapes their experiences shape the things that they create, the way that they present themselves and their business out into the world. And with Liveoak being such a really interesting thing and so timely for today, I thought it'd be really kind of interesting to maybe just give people a little bit of background about where you came from and how the idea for Liveoak came about, and obviously how the heck did you and Pete hook up together to start doing this thing? So, what if you could share that story?
Yeah, I would love to, Mike, and I appreciate that. And I'll try to be concise. I've been known to get long-winded with this because it's a fun story to tell. But
We have unlimited storage on our recording, so go as long as you feel like it.
okay, I'll start somewhere. You tell me if you want more. Really, my background, as you know, I spent 20 plus years in financial services. In particular, I worked for a variety of different institutions that sold their product effectively through third-party distribution, which, advisors all around the country, working for everybody from the largest wirehouses to the smallest independent RIA practices. So I worked for Fortune 100 companies that were in the mutual fund business, were in the retirement services business, insurance, et cetera, and effectively worked closely through that channel and had relationships with advisors. And so while I was selling and in the distribution leadership of that type of product, asset management, or services, it was 100% built around forming relationships with advisors and understanding their business. So I think it sounds like this audience that might resonate. And so Liveoak was built around the notion that, number one, that no matter what, in spite of great technology that was continuing to change the way that we operated in a variety of different fashions, the one thing was crystal clear, that people need a trusted relationship. That computers and technology and automation and AI and everything else could solve other parts of the friction, but when it comes down to the emotional part of making very important decisions, especially when you've spent decades, accumulating assets, or now you're getting to the point of protecting them, that nothing's going to replace the trusted relationship. And on the flip side, because of regulation, we just were still operating in a very archaic way. So it wasn't the human that was the problem. It was just the fact that we had to do business in a what seemed like Stone Age way, faxing and scanning, regular mail, requiring people to be in person in certain circumstances for all sorts of different reasons. That was the genesis of Liveoak, living that, understanding that, hearing that from advisors. And, I started being in Austin, Texas, and being in a career for 20 plus years. It seemed like, and there's a little bit of entrepreneurial side of me that goes back, but I had an idea, and it really blossomed when I overheard my co-founder, Pete Rung, who's been building technology for the same amount of time I'd been working for the companies. He had a similar idea. So that intersection of hearing somebody from a technology side mirror my intention was sort of this match made perfectly, that we had somebody who understood and lived the business side of it, and someone had the technology side of it. So that's where that
Can you tell that story a little bit? Can you tell how you and Pete, first of all, came together as co-founders, but then how did you realize you had the kind of the aha moment? Like, hey, listen, we're both thinking about the same thing. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So if digging in a little bit here, I had solicited, I through my wife's recommendation, after telling her, hey, I'm interested in doing something from an entrepreneurial standpoint, starting something, being part of a technology initiative, because there's this big wave of change that's about to happen, and I'm bored. I also had a job from a competitor that it was the best, job terms I've ever had, in terms of what they were going to pay me. So I had this offer that I was contemplating, not excited about. And this meeting literally with Pete was after I had gone to one session with a life coach. My wife said, you should go talk to a life coach, because you're at this crossroads of being at this top of your career, and now you're talking about doing something that would bypass that and be, a hard road to say the least. That life coach after listening to my story, gave me one piece of advice, and he said, "You should just stop and listen to the universe, because your answer as to which direction you're going to go is already there. You're just not listening." So that next day, I was at our my kids' swim meet, as Pete was, and I overheard him, literally walked by him and overheard him talking to another mutual friend about his idea. So literally opened my ears to the universe and heard Pete say a few things that sounded like, that sounds like something that I'm thinking about myself here. And so that's where the actual moment started. If you really want to get down to it, Mike, it was at our kids' swim meet.
That is amazing. I love that story. It's fantastic. You've told me before, but it's like you hear certain, like I always call it the aha moment, right? But you had a pre-aha moment, right? In some extent, you found yourself thinking about that something needs to be there, but like the fact that you had this serendipitous meeting at just the right time while the ideas were fresh is fantastic. And by the way, while the opportunity exists too, right? Because if you wait too long, somebody else might see the opportunity, or it may fade in terms of from your mind. And then frankly, you may just have taken that other job too, right? And decided, yeah, all right, I'll just go with the other job. But so that is fantastic.
Yeah. And on that note,
really cool.
On that note, though, it really was a series of those moments. So I think, just simply Pete and I connecting was one part of that. Interpreting a very generic message from a life coach that I think, actually was sound advice in hindsight. I also, and then the story about you and me meeting, right? I also had an opportunity in that whole window of stars and moons aligning, another event where I had the opportunity at our president's club at the company I worked for at the time was Mass Mutual. And so I was on that trip that I'd qualified for, and the CEO of Mass Mutual was there. And so that was what started as an awkward conversation that he seemed like he was like, "Hey, I do these all the time. It's, I have to kind of glad hand a little bit at a dinner and then go my own way." Ended up being a 2-hour conversation about this. I point blank said, "This is something that, right now we still deal in a world of faxing, scanning, doing paper, very archaic flow on how we interact with customers. There's better ways to do it. There's technology that exists. There's some that doesn't exist. I have ideas about that." And he point blank said, "It's funny you say that. There's 5 things that we're trying to solve that I think are going to be existential for us. In fact, I just set aside $100 million for a venture unit that we're going to start investing and incubating these ideas." And when I told him about the idea that Pete and I had, he basically said, "Send me an email," which I did, thinking he was probably just, being half serious. And he responded within 1 hour and connected me to the venture unit of Mass Mutual at the time. And so
it's amazing.
While we ended up not working with Mass Mutual from a venture standpoint, that the reaction we got from that meeting led us to say, let's go have 2 more of these conversations with people in the industry that we know. And it was the exact same reaction. So that sort of gave Pete and I validation. Instead of incubating this under one company's venture, an incubation unit, we said, let's go build the MVP and go raise some money and make a run at this.
That's fantastic. So, it's funny, you tee up my next topic here, and that is the one of what I would call urgency, right? You recognize that the CEO of Mass Mutual had some urgency of some things that he called as existential in nature. And, my kind of the question I like to ask of any tech founder is, why should, people care about it? In this case, why, advisors, agents, broker dealers, and the like, why should they care about Live Oak? And me, I'm on record. The reason why I put the SoFi event on every year at South by is, I'm a huge proponent of evangelizing the concept that investment advisors, agents, financial firms need to be embracing digital communications technologies, right? That the world is going to a place where we're all on our phones. It's already there in many cases. Consumers expect you to be kind of where they are, right? They're using their screens of choice wherever whatever that device is and wherever they are. They are less inclined to come to your office. They're less inclined to want to get on a phone with you for a long period of time, right? They want to be able to conduct business where it's comfortable for them. And so, like when you told me about Live Oak, I was just stoked. They're like, absolutely, I've seen this and I've lived this, back in my days at Fidelity and so forth. But kind of like hit on the urgency of the concept a little bit, and what the tech really does for an advisor or broker dealer firm, and how it can help them in their business, kind of today and in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Mike. For us, we see large, very large global firms, wirehouse firms that we work with, down to independent broker dealers and their advisors. There seems to be a commonality that there's a spectrum of, if you dissect your customer base, you're going to have some distinct percentage that says, hey, we're used to doing business the old way. We want to do it that way. And that means really the old way. Like next time we're going to meet twice a year. It's going to be at the coffee shop. You're going to buy me breakfast. And for an hour, we're going to talk about what's going on and if there's anything I need to do. There's a whole other end of the spectrum, which is this next generation that now has sort of less at stake, right? They're just getting started. You're just starting to create accounts with very little money in it. You may or may not have bought a house yet, but a lot of the complicated stuff hasn't happened yet, and you don't necessarily you've grown up on the phone, right? So there's this other end of the spectrum that's a complete digital experience where the relationship part of it is not necessarily front and center. But I think there's this, and what we hear over and over again from every one of our customers is there's this vast middle ground that is not on either end of that spectrum, that has that places a value on the expert opinion and just wants to make it to where it's easier to do business. And so what Live Oak, that's the entire genesis of Live Oak. We're here to keep the human centric approach, but just remove all the rest of the friction. So I think if you're an advisor at a stage of digital transformation at your team level, there's absolutely a way that you can deliver that entire spectrum of the way that you would offer your services and your advice, down to you will rarely talk to me and you've got this automated platform, to you and I are going to sit at a coffee shop, to, hey, if you don't have time to drive down or meet this time, we can absolutely jump on a conference, go through our full quarterly review, and if there's something we need to do, I can knock it out right then and there.
You mentioned friction, removing friction, and I think that is one of the most important aspects of it. Is that having been an advisor at one point in my career, the challenge of finding a mutually workable time to talk to the client, right? Because clients are busy, right? Especially if they're affluent or wealthy, they're doing stuff that makes them money. And when they're not doing stuff that makes them money, they're trying to enjoy their life. And so trying to carve out a time that works for them to meet with them in person can oftentimes be challenging, especially if they're the type of business owner or executive who travels a lot. It could be a pain in the butt. And if it's something that's, doesn't, isn't super earth shattering in nature, but, needs their attention, having something where it's really easy to kind of jump on the video chat or whatever can really help and give them the flexibility of removing like time and location friction.
No question about it. And it's compounded when it's multiple parties, whether that's
true.
Your spouse has to be, included in the decision making, or your estate attorney, or various third parties. the multi-party transaction is exponentially more frictionful if you're trying to say we all have to get together. And so we see that quite a bit. And I think it's sometimes is those multi-party transactions that also is synonymous with the most valuable clients, because if there's a third party who needs to weigh in, it means there's probably a larger account, right?
Right.
So we get hired, and a lot of times when we land is sort of quote unquote a white glove virtual collaboration tool, and it's just a layover to say, look, this is just purely intended to recreate the magic that happens when you all get together in person.
Well, it's funny too, because we've been in a period of time for the last, it's probably going on 20 years now. It feels shorter, but I think it's probably that long, of fee compression, right? Where the price point that asset managers and advisors are charging their end client is come down, in some cases quite substantially, in other cases, marginally. But and then you look at the customer spectrum, if you will, the client spectrum. Your lower end clients may be going towards more of a robo advisory, hands off type of approach. But those, mass affluent to high net worth clients are still going to want that white glove touch, right? They're going to still want to feel valued and that there's a human being that they're interacting with. And frankly, that actually adds value to the experience. So I can absolutely see why using Liveoak basically gives them the ability to scale those experiences, right? Because it's very difficult to scale if you still at the price points, if you have to still get in the car to go see every single client, right?
That's a really great point, Mike. And think about this, right? The generational wealth transfer that's kind of started and is going to be happening over the next decade of the older generation to the younger generation, that we are seen as a way that you can bridge the traditional way of doing business and bridge that gap. So I think that's yet another reason, if you're thinking about why would you change and start offering a multiple pronged approach to how you can interact with the customer, that is to bridge that gap as that transfer is happening.
So one of the things that I have kind of in my own mind have become famous for, as the way I talk to the way I talk to clients and people in the industry is, I say, look, there's really only three things we want to do. We need to make sure we do, and everything in the business feeds these three things. And that's, we're looking to get new clients, so new business from new clients. We're looking to expand our share of wallet with our existing clients. And then, of course, we're looking to keep clients longer. So client retention is really important. And oftentimes, people are putting more emphasis on one or the other of those types of things. But I thought it might be kind of beneficial for the audience to kind of just hear your thoughts on how Liveoak is used and beneficial for each of those elements, or winning new clients, expanding existing client relationships, and then, of course, keeping clients longer.
Yeah, I think, when you break that down, winning new clients, this gives you a platform to differentiate yourself. Because it is not a traditional way of working with clients. Legacy video conferencing, for example, has not been a great experience to date in being reliable, being something that's just simple and easy to join. And we don't coin ourselves as a video conferencing solution, because really, once you're in a video conference, the traditional legacy product allowed you just to either be in a conference, be on video or not, and chat, and maybe screen share, and that's it. So imagine coming out of the gate, and when really not very many people are doing it this way, having a platform that lets you transact business, and instead of saying, hey, now that we've come to a consensus and you're going to move your retirement assets over to our practice, I'm just going to go ahead and send you the paperwork, right? Think about how what a letdown that is, and to be able to say, I've got this very simple way that I've extracted enough information so far, and if you want to, right now we could go and finish it. That's I think it's just back to what I said. It's it's a differentiator that I think will be attractive to new clients and even existing clients. So it's the same thing.
Well, we've all had that experience where you've basically pitched a client and they're ready to rock and roll, at least that you feel like it in that meeting. And you give them the paperwork, or like you say, send them the paperwork. And then it takes another several weeks for them to, well, I haven't gotten around to it yet. And you're just like, oh my goodness, would you hurry up? Right. So, like, if they're ready to go and you can basically have them sign it while you're there on the call, it completely removes friction and accelerates the
That's
process.
right. And, there's a lot of different elements and use cases of what we're being used for. So there's one part of it that's getting through the onboarding paperwork part of it, but onboarding also entails KYC and identity verification. And believe it or not, all of the elements of what we're doing, where you have an audited liveness, a financial service enterprise, large or small, there's a whole variety of could you use Liveoak for this? Could you use Liveoak for that? And so we get a very wide spectrum. But I think some of the common themes, there's KYC requirements where you have to know your customer. You have to validate and authenticate the identity. In some cases, when it's an institutional type of onboarding, you're having to review documentation, validate certain things, and that's an area where our software is quite useful and can cut friction out by allowing the platform to make it easy to just to accomplish those tasks. One of the things that's unanimously come up, and this is sort of I'll share it here. Just know this is in development, but maybe just a little nugget for you, Mike. Where everyone brings up notary, right? Imagine. If you haven't, just try to picture if you have ever notarized something where you've been told you need it notarized. The reason you need it notarized is there has to be some third party deemed authorized to do so to validate you are who you are, that you showed up, that you were in sound decision making mind, and witness to signature. And it's documented and will be defendable in court and logged in a notarial record. That's just a pain in the ass, right?
100%.
And so some of those important transactions need that because they're higher value or they're various regulatory reasons. And so that's we've been working on that for a bit here and hope to have some announcements soon that would allow not only you to transact and do kind of more normalized business, but even call in a notary and have something notarized while you're doing that and not having to go anywhere other than where you are.
That makes complete sense. It is fascinating to me, by the way, that here we are, 2019 at the time of this recording, and some of these old legacy things still exist. Now, I absolutely get the notion that, there's in the event that there was a dispute and you had to go to court, there has to be some objective evidence there that says, hey, this document was signed. But we are at the point with technology like Liveoak where we could say this human being was on video, right? And we have captured and validated their identity. This is just as valid as them sitting across the desk from some local clerk who clicks stamp.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I'm glad you see it. You see it, and it's we hear it all the time.
Yeah, that's great. So, I like to ask this question a lot too. What have been some of the biggest surprises that you've seen so far? I got to imagine that's one of the most fun things. And as a firm that's 5 or 6 years old now, you're out there, you're hustling, you're flying all over the world. I see you in my LinkedIn feed. So, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of time away from the family, and a lot of it's very rewarding and fulfilling. But there's got to have been some really interesting surprises that you just didn't see coming so far, both on the product side and kind of on the business building side, and the interactions you've had with firms.
Yeah, I think you can appreciate these are firms that have data security at the utmost importance. And so you go into this and you are wanting to build a solution that's an enterprise solution that is built in the cloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
We knew it was going to be hard. We knew that it was going to have to be built in such a way that we met high standards. We just never, you never could have anticipated how high that was and how hard it was. So to put it in perspective, there's one of the largest global banks and wealth management firms in the world only has 5 companies that have made it through what they call cloud governance, meaning you're a software platform that allows for any parts of our client data to be hosted in the cloud, not on-prem. And you can imagine the 4 other ones are incredibly large names.
Right.
So
yeah.
I think the biggest surprise was how hard it really was, and how everyone said, you guys should just pivot and abort because it ain't going to happen. And then I guess the second part of the surprise is that how willing and receptive, even in spite of how hard it was, that these companies are motivated to change the way they do business and to actually work with us to actually make it through.
That's been one of the things that over the course of my career in this industry, it oftentimes can seem like they're moving at a glacial pace, but I've seen it time and again. First off, with online brokerage, right in the mid '90s, that once financial services companies, particularly on the wealth side, decide, oh, this is important, we need to do this, they move really, really quickly and get stuff done, right? It's not that they're resistant to innovation or change. It's that kind of what you said there about with their cloud security. It's like, look, there's a whole lot of fiduciary responsibility on these people's shoulders, right? All it takes is to have one little scandal where clients' accounts were compromised and they lost money or something of that nature, to lose the trust of your clients, and the exodus is huge, right? So and frankly, you'll have a hard time getting new clients. So it's really, really important that they secure things and make sure that everything's buttoned up. So that's really exciting, though, for you guys that you were able to get through that process.
Yeah, we're there's a lot of grit and a lot of methodical. There's there's 4.5 going on 5 years behind it, and there's so we have some really amazing developers on our team that have put their lifetime of learning and expertise into this. So I think they're hats off to them, and we've got a great team. Like there's every single person. We're 18 going on 30. So every time we hire somebody, awesome. we're really getting very specific, and it's quality people.
That's great. Yeah, I would imagine your hiring constraints are a little different than the traditional, consumer-facing startup, right? You need to move fast, but you need to make sure you're bringing in people who are fairly bulletproof. It's really interesting, and I think the reward. Share this with your team. The reward is coming, right? One of the things that's often overlooked for companies that are in the fintech startup space is, you look across a lot of other startups and everybody talks about the hockey stick, about this rapid growth, and the challenge, because we're in a regulated environment and the security constraints are much higher. And frankly, the sales cycles are slower at these firms because of the bureaucracy inherent in these organizations. The hockey stick looks like a real hockey stick, right? It's a really long, flat shaft, right, with almost no slope to it at all as you're building and getting over these hurdles. But then once that you get to that blade and it starts to curve up, these companies don't want to go through that sales process again. Right. They want to, once they bring in solutions and they get their clients using the solutions, they get the advisors using the solutions, they really tend to lock in and stay committed to them because they have been walking hand in hand with those solution providers. So I think you guys have an incredibly big future ahead of you. And each thing is building on top of it.
I appreciate that. We have a term that is at the top of our corporate goals, and it's referenceability. And so for us, aren't reams of logos, rather they're a finite number of, and when we look at the dozen names that the first dozen, the logos themselves, and the fact that we can make sure that we're adding value and make sure they're referenceable is kind of, we think that is a hockey stick for us.
That's perfect.
If it works at these and we've made it through and we've got the ROI at these, and it's going to, there's more to come.
That's awesome. All right. So I imagine as a result of this, people hear this podcast and it'll be a reference of sorts. So people are going to want to reach out and chat with you and explore how Liveoak can help them and their team. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, by all means, we're revamping our website, but come see us at liveoak.net. You can reach us at hello@liveoak.net, and ping me on LinkedIn, link me in.
That's right. Very cool.
I love LinkedIn, by the way. I don't know. I'm sure there's a variety of different opinions about it, but in the spirit of what you all do as advisors and what I do, creating new relationships and new opportunities for Liveoak, LinkedIn is just a phenomenal tool, a phenomenal place. Yeah. It's the center point of my networking. So
that's awesome. Well, fantastic, Andy. I really do appreciate you carving out the time. I know it was kind of difficult here to make the time with your schedule, and we finally got it done. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Indeed, Mike. Thanks so much, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. What a fantastic episode. I was, again, so grateful to have Andy on the show. He and I tried really, really hard to make this happen, and the world was conspiring against us in the same magnitude where before the world conspired for us to get him to be part of that SoFi, at South by Southwest experience there, and put all the right people in the right room. Just kind of the universe aligned. The universe was being a pain in the butt for us to get this podcast recorded. We've had technical issues. We've had scheduling issues, plane delay issues where poor Andy got in like really, really early in the morning and his brain was toast a week or so ago. We're trying to get him on the show. So it seemed like the universe was conspiring against us. But at the end of the day, we ended up getting a really good episode recorded here. I think you probably got a ton out of hearing Andy's story and seeing what they're building. I absolutely urge you to reach out to Andy and the Liveoak team, liveoak.net. Go there, see what they're all about. Tell your broker-dealer wirehouse firm, whatever firm you're in, that they need Liveoak Technologies in their lives. And I know that you'll really enjoy it. Let me see. Make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn, of course. And then give us a share, give us a like on the socials, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Share wherever you want to share it, but make sure you share it. Let other people know about the show, right? People need to know about the stuff we're talking about here on the Valuations Podcast. And of course, send in your suggestions for guests and topics. Love to hear from you. Any feedback is appreciated because this show is for you, as I say all the time. This is absolutely for you, trying to help you, trying to give you some stuff, try to entertain you a little bit. I do try to be entertaining. So feel free to send us an email, Mike@Truelytics, valuations@truelytics.com. Or swing by truelytics.com and leave a comment via the contact us form. Okay. Hope everything's going well for you. And we'll talk to you next time on the Valuations Podcast. See ya. Bye.